Once upon a time, nestled between gentle hills and glistening rivers, there was a magical forest known as the Whispering Forest. It wasn't called that because of ghosts or eerie sounds, but because the trees had a secret. At night, when the moon rose high and the stars blinked softly above, the trees would whisper stories to each other, stories from all corners of the world. At the edge of the forest lived a kind girl named Elira. She loved the forest more than anything and spent most of her days gathering wildflowers, listening to the birds, and talking to the old oak tree near her cottage. She believed the tree could understand her, and maybe, just maybe, it even whispered back. One evening, after a golden sunset, Elira decided to stay a little longer under her oak tree. As the sky turned a deep velvet and stars peeked out, she began to feel drowsy. The soft wind brushed her cheeks, and the leaves rustled gently. Just as her eyes were about to close, she heard a very soft voice. "Elira," it whispered. Startled but not frightened, she looked around. It was the oak tree. "You've listened for so long," said the tree, "and now the forest wants to share its stories with you." From that night on, every time Elira closed her eyes under the branches of the oak tree, she would hear stories from faraway lands. Stories of dolphins that danced with the moon, of butterflies who painted rainbows, of sleepy clouds that drifted through dreams. Night after night, Elira visited the tree, and every night the forest told her a new tale. Over time, the whispers felt like lullabies, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. And even as Elira grew older, the Whispering Forest remained her sanctuary, a place where stories never ended, and dreams were always welcome. So if you ever wander near a quiet forest, and the wind feels soft, and the trees seem to hum a gentle tune, listen closely. You might just hear a story meant for you. One especially starry night, as Elira rested beneath her oak tree, she heard a new kind of whisper, not just a story, but an invitation. "Elira," said the tree in its calm, wooden voice, "tonight you may follow the path of the dream keepers." Elira sat up slowly, her heart fluttering with curiosity. "What is the path of the dream keepers?" she asked. The wind swirled softly around her, lifting fallen leaves into a quiet spiral. "It is a path only open to those who listen with love," said the oak. "Follow the silver lights." And then she saw them, tiny specks of silver light dancing like fireflies, forming a glowing trail deeper into the forest. Elira stood, wrapped her shawl around her shoulders, and followed the sparkling lights. The forest was quiet, but not silent. Crickets played their soft song, owls blinked from high branches, and somewhere in the distance, a brook laughed gently over smooth stones. As she walked, the air grew warmer, the stars brighter. The path led her to a glade she had never seen before, where a gentle fountain stood, shaped like a crescent moon. Around it were creatures of all kinds, deer with glowing antlers, foxes with star-speckled fur, and birds that shimmered like dawn. A soft voice spoke again, this time not from the trees, but from within her heart. "Elira," it said, "this is the place where dreams are born. The dream keepers watch over all sleeping souls and protect their dreams." And then she saw them, tall, graceful beings made of mist and moonlight, their eyes filled with kindness. One of them stepped forward and offered Elira a small crystal shaped like a teardrop. "This is a dream gem," said the being. "With it you may visit others in their dreams, bringing peace, joy, and gentle stories. You are now one of us, a dream keeper." Elira took the crystal in her hand, and the warmth of it filled her entire body. She smiled softly, feeling as though the whole forest had wrapped her in a tender hug. That night she floated into dreams like a drifting cloud, visiting sleeping children and tired travelers, planting dreams like seeds of starlight. And from that night on, even when she slept in her cozy cottage bed, Elira remained a guardian of dreams, her heart forever tied to the whispering forest and the secret glade of the dream keepers. As Elira grew into her role as a dream keeper, the dreams she touched began to bloom like flowers in springtime. Some were gentle fields of laughter for lonely children. Others were peaceful oceans where the tired-hearted could sail until morning. Each night, she journeyed farther and farther, yet always returned with sunrise to her little home at the forest's edge. One morning, as the first golden light reached her window, Elira awoke to find something different. In the clearing outside her cottage, where only soft grass had grown before, now stood tiny glowing buds. They shimmered like dew-kissed stars. The oak tree rustled with delight. "These," it whispered, "are dream blooms. They grow from the dreams you've gifted. Every peaceful night you've given has left behind a seed." Elira knelt by the flowers. Each had a color of its own: sapphire blue, warm amber, soft rose, moonlit white. As she touched one, a vision came to her, a joyful dream she had once given to a frightened boy who feared thunderstorms. From that day on, Elira tended to her dream garden with love. The more she cared for it, the more it grew. Visitors from nearby villages, drawn by the calming aura, would pass by and feel suddenly at peace. They didn't know why, but smiles always softened their faces. One evening, a small girl named Mira wandered into the clearing. She looked lost and sad. Elira welcomed her gently and offered her a seat near the brightest bloom. "Would you like to hear a story?" Elira asked. Mira nodded, and so Elira told her one of the forest's quiet tales, her voice weaving dreams into words. Mira listened, her eyes slowly closing, and as she drifted into sleep, a new flower opened beside her, luminous, golden, and warm. From that day on, Elira knew her dream garden wasn't just a place for flowers. It was a place for healing. A place where anyone, big or small, could rest, listen, and find a gentle dream to carry with them into the night. One evening, as a silver full moon rose over the whispering forest, the oak tree stirred with excitement. "Elira," it whispered, "tonight is a special night. Once every 100 years, the forest holds the Moonlight Festival. And you, our dream keeper, are to be its guest of honor." Elira's eyes sparkled with wonder. "What is the Moonlight Festival?" she asked. "It is a celebration of peace, dreams, and harmony," the tree replied. "A night when every creature, every flower, every breeze gathers to dance under the moonlight." She dressed in a flowing gown woven from dream silk, a gift from the forest, and followed a glowing path deeper into the woods. The trees seemed taller and more graceful than ever, their branches lit by floating lanterns made of crystal leaves. Gentle music filled the air, soft flutes, wind chimes, and heartbeats in rhythm. In the clearing of the Dreamkeeper's glade, hundreds of beings had gathered, woodland creatures, glowing birds, whispering spirits of wind and stars. Even the trees had bent their trunks inward, forming a circle around the clearing, as if to watch and protect the celebration. At the center stood a platform made of moonstone. Elira stepped onto it, and the moment her foot touched the stone, a gentle breeze lifted her hair and the sky above shimmered like water. Then came the moonlight dance. The Dreamkeepers, graceful and glowing, danced in spirals and waves, their forms blending with the light. Flowers bloomed with each step. Stars blinked in time to the melody. Elira joined them, her steps light as feathers, her heart full of calm. When the dance ended, the oldest Dreamkeeper approached Elira and placed a crown of starlight upon her head. "You are not just a guardian of dreams now," the being said with warmth. "You are the heart of the forest, the one who brings rest, hope, and harmony." The forest glowed with joy. Even the moon seemed to bow. And from that night on, the forest itself changed, brighter, warmer, more alive. Travelers said that the moment they entered its shade, their worries lifted, and their dreams became more beautiful. Elira remained at the heart of it all, watching over the dream garden, dancing in the moonlight, and planting peace wherever sleep was needed. One peaceful night, after the moonlight festival had passed and the forest had returned to its usual dreamy rhythm, Elira noticed something strange in her dream garden. A flower she had never seen before had bloomed, deep blue like twilight, glowing softly like a star. She knelt beside it. As her fingers brushed its petals, the flower opened wider and revealed a tiny well of light at its center. "Elira," whispered the old oak tree, its voice almost a song. "This is the star well." "What is it?" Elira asked, her heart calm but curious. "It is the bridge between dreams and the sky," the tree said gently. "Very few ever find it. But you are ready. Step inside." Though it looked no larger than a teacup, the moment Elira leaned closer, the world shifted, and she fell softly, weightlessly, into the light. She landed not with a thud, but with a hush, on a cloud that glowed beneath her feet. Around her was a place beyond time, the dreaming sky. Here stars moved like lanterns, slow and peaceful. Some blinked with the rhythm of a sleeping child's breath. Others shimmered with stories still unwritten. "Elira," came a voice from above. It was the Star Weaver, an ancient guardian of dreams that traveled through time and space, leaving trails of stories across galaxies. "You have brought peace to the minds of many," the Star Weaver said, its voice both echo and whisper. "Now we offer you a new gift, the ability to guide lost dreams back home." The Star Weaver gave her a quill made of comet light and a scroll that unrolled forever. "Write with kindness," it said, "and each word will become a path through the stars." Elira began writing. As her words formed, they stretched into the sky, turning into soft constellations and bridges of moonlight. "Lost dreams, tiny glowing motes, began to gather, following her trails back to their dreamers. She smiled, knowing that even the most forgotten dreams could find their way again. Eventually, the star well opened once more, and Elira drifted gently back to her garden. The blue flower closed, its work done, for now. But the sky above the forest sparkled a little brighter that night, and if you looked closely, you could see letters written among the stars. As the nights grew longer and gentler, and the stars hung lower over the whispering forest, Elira noticed that some dreams flickered faintly, as if struggling to stay alight. She asked the ancient oak tree, "Why are some dreams dimmer, even though I tried to guide them all?" The tree answered softly, "Some dreams are fragile, Elira, wounded by sadness, forgotten hopes, or quiet fears. They need more than guidance, they need light." Elira pondered in silence, her hand resting over her heart. That evening, as dusk turned the sky to soft violet, a package appeared at the base of the oak, wrapped in starlight and tied with a ribbon made of wind. Inside it, she found a lantern, clear as crystal, yet glowing faintly from within. "This," whispered the wind, "is the dream lantern. Feed it with kindness, and it will carry your warmth into the dreams that are nearly lost." That night, Elira lit the lantern with a thought of pure love. It shone with a soft, golden glow, like the memory of a mother's lullaby or the hush of snowfall. She held it gently and began walking through the forest of forgotten dreams, a quiet place in the deepest part of the woods, where old dreams drifted like mist, slow and unsure. She touched the lantern to each one. To a dream of a child who once wished to fly, it flickered, then fluttered into a bird of light. To a dream of an old man who longed to see the sea again, it glowed into waves of memory, calming and wide. To a dream of a young girl afraid of being alone, it warmed into a dream of glowing fireflies, who danced and never left her side. Each time she touched a dream, the lantern glowed brighter. By dawn, the forest of forgotten dreams was no longer quiet, but full of gentle movement, dreams rising like stars, ready to return home. Elira stood among them, her lantern still in hand, glowing warm and bright. "You've brought hope to the lost," whispered the oak as morning light spilled through the trees, and reminded the forest that even the quietest dreams deserve to shine. After many nights of guiding dreams and lighting the forgotten, Elira began to feel a soft, quiet calling, as though something in the forest was whispering not with words, but with reflection. One morning, the old oak told her, "Elira, your heart has given light to others. But now, the forest invites you to look inward." Curious, Elira followed a path of silver-leafed vines that shimmered only in the early dawn. They led her beyond places she had known, past the dream garden, past the starwell, into a hidden grove encircled by tall trees with bark like polished moonstone. At the center stood a mirror, but it was unlike any mirror she had ever seen. It wasn't made of glass. It was made of still water, suspended in air like a perfectly quiet pond. "This is the dream mirror," whispered a soft breeze around her. "It shows not what you are, but all you have ever given." Elira stepped closer. At first, the mirror rippled gently. Then it showed her a boy laughing in his dream of flying. a girl dancing with fireflies, a sailor smiling at the memory of the sea, a mother sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. Dozens, then hundreds of dreams, glowing softly, filled the mirror's surface like stars in a calm sky. And then, for the first time, the mirror showed Elira herself, not as she saw herself, but as the forest did, radiant with quiet courage, her hands full of light, her eyes kind and wide. Tears gathered in her eyes, not of sadness, but of a peace so deep, it echoed through her soul like a lullaby. She reached out, and the mirror became a door. As she stepped through it, she found herself in a new part of the whispering forest, a meadow that shimmered with soft mist and gentle silence. Here time slowed. Here she could rest. This place was not for others, it was for her. A place where even dreamkeepers could sleep. She lay down on a bed of moss, the sky above her painted with drifting light. And for the first time in many moons, Elira let herself dream, not of others, but of her own childhood, her own joys, her own hopes. The forest kept watch. And as the stars turned overhead, the dream mirror stood quietly at the meadow's edge, ready for the next dreamkeeper, someday, to find it. The pale silver light shimmered on the surface of the dream mirror as Elira laid her fingers upon it. A chill surged through her, and the whispering of the forest shifted. It was no longer the rustling of wind in the branches, it was voices. Thousands of voices speaking all at once. You see not your own, but theirs. Came a low echo from within the glass. Before her eyes, the surface rippled, and images began to take form. Memories not her own, dreams from souls long lost to the forest. She saw a boy with antlers running through a field of crimson flowers, a woman weeping at the edge of a frozen lake, a dark figure standing beneath a moonless sky, holding a flame that did not burn. Elira's breath caught. Each dream shimmered like smoke, beautiful and terrible. Then she saw him, Kale. His reflection appeared in the mirror, not as she last saw him, but different. His eyes glowed faintly gold, and shadows clung to his back like wings. Kale? She whispered. His image turned to her, but did not speak. Instead, the voices grew louder, rising to a crescendo until the glass cracked, spiderwebbing under her touch. A deep voice, not Kale's, boomed from within. The dream mirror is open. Now the forest remembers, and so must you. The vision vanished. The forest fell silent, and behind her something moved. Elira spun around, heart pounding, but saw nothing, only the dense, mist-veiled trees of the whispering forest. Yet the silence was wrong, too complete. No wind, no whispers, no birdsong, only her breath. Then, from the base of an ancient tree, the roots began to shift. Slowly, they curled back like fingers revealing something hidden, a narrow, dark tunnel leading deep into the earth. She hesitated. The words still echoed in her mind. Now the forest remembers, and so must you. Clutching the pendant her grandmother had given her, the one that never grew cold until now, she stepped forward. The tunnel's entrance pulsed faintly, as if it breathed. With one last look at the broken dream mirror, Elira descended into the hollow path. Inside, the air was heavy and damp, laced with the scent of moss and old magic. The walls shimmered faintly with runes she could not read, but somehow understood. They told of a pact made long ago, between the forest and the first dreamer. And they told of a betrayal. As she walked deeper, she saw flickers of light, memories caught in the roots, playing like lantern shadows. A young girl chasing fireflies, a tree burning, a mirror hidden in stone. Then she heard it. Footsteps behind her. She turned. Nothing. But this time, she felt it. Not danger. Familiarity. A voice echoed down the path, gentle but strained. Elira, don't trust what you remember. Her blood ran cold. That voice, it was her own. The air in the hollow path grew thinner, as if the tunnel itself was breathing with her. Elira's own voice still echoed in her ears. Don't trust what you remember. But how could that be? She had never been here before. Had she? The roots above her pulsed with faint blue light, illuminating fragments of scenes, memories or dreams, each vanishing before she could grasp them fully. A small child crying beneath a broken moon, a mirror shattering in a pool of blood, a hand reaching through fire. Suddenly, the tunnel ended. She stepped into a wide underground chamber, lit by dozens of floating crystal orbs. In the center stood a stone pedestal, and on it another mirror. But this one was unlike the dream mirror. It was smooth obsidian, perfectly still, and it reflected nothing. Not the chamber. Not Elira. Not even light. She approached it cautiously. As she neared, the mirror shimmered, and a figure appeared within. Her. But not her as she was. This Elira had eyes of silver, hair woven with vines, and a crown of antlers. She looked older, powerful, wild and calm all at once. And she was smiling. Then the reflection spoke. You are not remembering, it said. You are returning. Elira staggered back, the weight of those words settling into her bones. The mirror continued, its voice now echoing with countless others layered beneath it. You were the first dreamer. The forest was your heart. But you forgot, and now the balance has broken. A sudden wind burst through the chamber, impossible, underground, and the orbs of light began to shatter, one by one. You must awaken. The ground cracked beneath her feet. And then, darkness. But this was no ordinary dark. It was alive. She could feel it breathing, slow and deep, like the roots of the world exhaling. Her hands were pressed to soil, rich and damp, and as she opened her eyes, faint green light bloomed beneath her fingertips. She wasn't alone. Shapes stirred around her, figures of bark and shadow, humanoid but twisted, their limbs bending like branches. Forest spirits long forgotten. They didn't speak, but they watched her with hollow, glowing eyes. A voice rose not from them, but from below. The forest remembers what you buried. Elira stood, dizzy with the weight of something ancient pressing down on her chest. The memory vision from the mirror clung to her mind, the antlers, the vines in her hair, the silver in her eyes. The other Elira, the first dreamer, wasn't just a legend. She had been real. And somehow, she had been Elira. But how? Why had she forgotten? One of the spirits stepped forward and offered her something, a seed, pulsing with faint golden light. As soon as she touched it, a rush of images exploded behind her eyes. A time before time. The forest vast and unbroken. Elira standing at its heart, speaking to trees, to stars, to shadows. A war. A betrayal. A choice to forget. She collapsed to her knees, gasping. The seed had given her the truth. She had once chosen to forget who she was, to save the forest from herself. The spirits knelt as one, their forms trembling, waiting. Elira looked at the seed in her hand. A choice stood before her again. To plant it and remember everything. Elira stared at the glowing seed in her palm, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. Around her, the forest spirits waited in stillness, as if the air itself was holding its breath. She knew what planting it meant. Not just remembering, becoming. Becoming the first dreamer again. Becoming who she once was, and everything that came with it. The power, the pain, the truth. Her fingers tightened around the seed. A single memory, sharp as glass, broke through the fog of her forgotten past. A younger Elira, standing at the center of the forest, holding back a storm of fire and shadow. Around her, the trees wept, and the sky tore open as something monstrous clawed its way into the world. She had screamed a name. Kale. Elira gasped. It wasn't just the forest she had tried to save. It was him. He had been the one who broke the balance. Or had she made him into that? The memory was cracked, incomplete, but the seed trembled, as if urging her forward. And so, with shaking hands, she knelt and pressed the seed into the earth. The soil drank it in. The chamber trembled. Light burst from the cracks in the ground, racing up the walls, illuminating the spirits and roots and runes in a blinding, golden wave. Elira's body lifted from the earth, suspended in the air like a leaf in a windless sky. She felt it all returning. Every dream, every sorrow, every name, every promise, every betrayal. The forest sang her name, Elira. And when her feet touched the ground again, she was different. She was the first dreamer. The spirits bowed, and the forest bloomed around her. But the sky above them rumbled. Something had awakened with her. Far beyond the forest, across broken hills and ash-covered fields, Kale opened his eyes. And he remembered her too. Far to the north, beyond the whispering forest's edge, the skies churned. Storm clouds formed not from weather, but from memory, memories Kale had locked away for centuries. Now they surged back into him like a tidal wave of forgotten light. He stood atop a dead hill, surrounded by ash and silence. Elira was awake. He could feel her, like a second heartbeat in his chest. Not the girl he had seen in the dream mirror, but the dreamer she had once been. The one he had loved. The one he had feared. And the one who had cast him into shadow. Kale's hands trembled. Flames flickered between his fingers, though there was no fire nearby. She remembers, he whispered. So now, must I? He turned to the ruined altar behind him, where a cracked obsidian crown lay buried beneath tangled roots. As he reached for it, a voice, deep and inhuman, slithered from the wind. Are you ready to finish what she began? Kale closed his eyes. He remembered a promise made in the heart of the forest, beneath the dream tree, that they would protect the balance together, that they would never let the forest fall into silence. But he had broken that vow, and she had buried the truth. Now, the forest was no longer dreaming. It was waking. Back in the hollow path, Elira stood beneath the now glowing canopy. Every root, every leaf, every breath of the earth hummed with recognition. Her memories had returned, but with them came questions. Why had Kale fallen? Who whispered to him in the dark? And what was the true cost of their magic? The forest offered no answers, only a direction. North, toward the edge of the known world, toward the place where the dream tree had once stood, and where its roots had rotted. Elira stepped forward, the path opening before her. The whispering forest followed. The path north was unlike any Elira had walked before. The forest bent around her, its trees bowing low, revealing trails that hadn't existed in lifetimes. Flowers bloomed as she passed, and ancient creatures stirred in the underbrush, blinking awake after centuries of slumber. But with every step, the warmth faded. The soil grew dry, the wind colder, the whispers thinner, more frightened. She was nearing the scar. After a day and night of silent travel, she emerged onto a gray plain of lifeless bark and bone. The forest had once stretched here, vast, eternal. Now it was hollow. At the center stood a massive, rotted trunk rising like a fossil from the cracked earth. The dream tree, or what remained of it. Its bark was blackened, its roots withered. Where once stars had hung from its branches, only darkness now dripped. Elira stepped toward it, her heart heavy. She remembered the last time she stood here, how she had poured her magic into its roots, sealing away the rift Kale had torn open. How she had made the hardest choice of her life. To erase herself. To forget him. To keep the forest dreaming. Now the dream tree pulsed faintly, like a dying ember. And beneath its shadow, someone waited. Kale. He looked the same, and entirely different. His eyes held centuries of loss. His voice, when it came, was quiet but unshaken. You shouldn't have come. Elira stepped closer. We started this together, she said. We finish it together. He laughed, bitter, broken. You don't know what finishing it means. The sky rumbled. Wind swirled. Beneath their feet, the dream tree groaned. A crack split its trunk, and from that wound, something began to rise. Not light, not shadow, something older, something watching. From the split in the dream tree's trunk, a sound emerged, a low, rhythmic thrum, like the heartbeat of a buried giant. Roots twisted in unnatural shapes, peeling apart to reveal a void beneath the tree. The air turned thick, charged with old magic that Elira hadn't felt since before she chose to forget. Kale stepped back, his face pale. "It's waking," he murmured. "We're too late." "What is it?" Elira asked, though some part of her already knew. Not a creature. Not a god. A memory, the first and darkest one. The forest's original dream. Before life. Before balance. Before her. A voice, not spoken, but felt, surged from the chasm. "You took my name. You broke my silence. Now return what was stolen." Elira stumbled as the world around her shifted. The trees bent backward. The ground rolled like water. The sky cracked at its edges. All things were remembering at once, not just her, not just Kale, but the forest itself. Kale turned to her, his voice urgent, desperate. "It wants to become again. We sealed it away, not by force, but by forgetting. That was your final gift, Elira. But now you remember, and so does it." A massive root lunged from the tree's heart, slamming into the ground near them. Black vines began to spread, turning soil to ash. Elira looked into the void and saw her past. Not as a girl, not as the first dreamer, but as the key. It had been her voice that first called the dream tree into being. It had been her silence that had kept the thing below asleep. And now, only she could decide to silence it once more, or let it speak. Kale reached for her hand. "We end this together. One way or another." Elira closed her eyes. The forest was screaming now. And in the center of it all, she stood, the dreamer, the memory, the flame. The forest had no sky now, only swirling shadow overhead, alive with ancient hunger. Trees twisted into thorns. The ground bled light. The void beneath the dream tree widened, pulsing with something that had no shape, no voice, and yet had always been there. Elira stood at the edge. Kale beside her. The thing below did not move, but it pressed, against her thoughts, against her soul. Not in words, but in truths. "You named the dream," it whispered inside her. "But I was the silence before it." She remembered. Before the forest. Before the mirror. Before the dream tree. There had been something vast and nameless. It had not been cruel, but empty. It had waited, endless and patient, until one voice, her voice, had broken it with the first dream. And it had never forgiven her. Kale gripped her arm. "We can seal it again. Together. You know the right." She shook her head. "No. That was never a seal. It was a lie." He stared at her. "We didn't lock it away with magic, Kale. We locked it away by forgetting it existed. That's why I gave up everything. That's why I had to forget you." His face fell. The tree groaned louder. Cracks split across its bark, leaking not sap, but memory, old and dark and wild. Images spilled out, a fire that never burned out, a sky with no stars, a girl standing alone, singing the first forest into being. Elira stepped forward. "If it wakes now, the forest dies." Kale looked toward the void. "If it stays forgotten, we die inside it." And then a third voice. Soft. Low. Younger. from within the tree. "Let it speak!" Elira gasped. It was her voice. A younger Elira. A version she'd forgotten even existed. A dream of herself, buried deeper than even memory. The first dreamer before she became the guardian, before she chose silence. The child stepped from the hollow trunk, eyes wide, fearless. "It only wants to be named," Kale whispered, stunned. "You split yourself." Elira nodded, barely able to breathe. She had sealed not only the nameless thing, but a piece of herself. Now the pieces had returned. Now a choice remained. To name the ancient thing, and make it part of the world. Or forget again, and lose a piece of her soul forever. The child reached out a hand. The void trembled. The world waited. The child Elira's hand hovered over the widening void, her eyes shimmering like stars caught in a still lake. The forest held its breath, the very air thick with waiting. Elira felt the weight of countless ages pressing down, ancient silence and unspoken names swirling inside her. This was the moment, to speak or to stay silent. She stepped forward, the echoes of her past selves surrounding her like a chorus. "I am the dreamer," she whispered, her voice steady. "And I am the dream. But you are the silence before the dream. You are part of me, as I am part of you." The void pulsed, a deep hum rippling through the earth. Elira took a breath and named it. "I call you Nerith, the beginning and the end, the unseen root of all things." The forest shuddered, but then the shadows softened, folding back into the earth like a tide. The dream tree's cracks sealed themselves slowly, bark knitting together with silver light. The void receded into the roots, now alive and singing with new life. The child Elira smiled, fading into the warm glow of the tree. Kale exhaled, relief washing over him. "You did it," he said quietly. Elira nodded, though a deep calm settled in her bones. She had named the silence. She had become whole. And the whispering forest whispered back. The whispering forest breathed again. Soft winds carried new songs through the leaves. The dream tree stood tall and whole, its branches shimmering with stars reborn. Elira walked beneath its canopy, feeling the pulse of the forest, alive, awake, and endlessly dreaming. Beside her, Kale smiled, no longer shadowed by the past. The rift between them mended, their hearts weaving a new promise. "You brought the forest back," he said. She smiled softly. "No," Elira replied. "We brought it back. The forest remembers because we remember. Because we chose to face the silence, to speak its name." Above them, the sky brightened, a dawn unlike any other breaking across the land. The dreamer and the guardian reunited. The forest whispering new stories, endless and free. And somewhere deep beneath the roots, Nerith rested, no longer silence, but a seed of possibility. The dream had begun anew. Years had passed since the dreamer named Nerith and restored the forest's heart. The whispering forest flourished, a living tapestry of light and shadow weaving together once more. But peace is never absolute. Elira and Kale had grown, stronger, wiser, but even the deepest magic could not erase every scar. One morning, beneath the silver dawn, Elira awoke to find the dream tree's light flickering, uneven, fractured, as if something inside was struggling to breathe. A new whisper echoed through the leaves, colder than before. The silence remembers. Beyond the forest's edge, shadows gathered in places thought long forgotten. Forgotten paths began to stir. The ancient roots of Nerith trembled. Elira knew the balance was shifting again. The dreamer must awaken. But this time, the forest's voice was fractured, and so was her own. The forest felt wrong. Elira's footsteps faltered beneath the dream tree, where the silver light had dimmed to a faint, flickering glow. The air was thick, not with the usual hum of magic, but with tension. Kale approached from the eastern path, his eyes narrowed. "Something's wrong with Nerith," he said, voice low. "The roots are restless." Elira knelt by the tree's base, placing her hand on the bark. A cold pulse radiated outward, like a shiver through the earth. "The silence we named isn't quiet," she murmured. "It's speaking, but in broken pieces." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. From the roots, dark tendrils of shadow slithered upward, twisting like serpents. Elira sprang back as the tendrils coiled around the tree, choking its light. Kale drew a blade forged from dreamwood, a gift from the forest itself, and swung at the nearest shadow. It hissed and vanished like smoke. "We've awakened something old. Something Nerith tried to hold back." Elira's mind raced. The peace they had fought so hard to restore was fracturing. And now they faced a threat born not from silence, but from the fractured light itself. "Then we must find the source," she said firmly, "before the forest falls into shadow once again." Elira and Kale set out beyond the familiar paths, following the dark pulse that rippled through the forest's roots. The trees grew twisted and gnarled as they traveled, leaves blackened where the shadow had touched. After hours of walking, they came to a hidden glade veiled in mist. The air here was still, heavy with forgotten magic. At its center stood an ancient stone archway, half swallowed by vines, pulsing faintly with fractured light. Elira stepped forward, recognizing the glyphs etched into the stone, symbols of an old language, older than even Nerith. "This is the Lost Grove," she whispered, "where the first fractures appeared, long before the dream tree." Kale studied the arch. "If the shadow spreads from here, it means something beneath the roots has stirred again." A sudden chill swept the glade, and the mist thickened. Shapes moved just beyond sight. Elira gripped Kale's hand. "We'll need all the forest strength to face what's coming." Elira and Kale stood before the ancient stone archway in the Lost Grove, the air heavy with a charged stillness. The pale mist curled around their feet like living smoke, and the forest around them seemed to hold its breath. Elira reached out, her fingers brushing the cool stone, tracing the strange, glowing glyphs. The symbols pulsed faintly under her touch, fragmented patterns of light and shadow intertwined like a delicate web. They whispered secrets of the past, languages forgotten by time, woven from the very essence of the forest's origin. "This language," Elira murmured, "it's not just old, it's primal. It's the root song, the source melody from which all forest magic flows." But these glyphs, they're broken, shattered, like a reflection cracked across a mirror. Kale knelt beside her, examining the arch closely. If the lost grove is where the fractures began, then whatever corrupted the forest must still linger beneath this place. Something Nerith didn't, or couldn't, fully contain. A sudden gust of cold wind swept through the clearing, rustling dead leaves and causing the mist to swirl into twisted shapes. Shadows flickered beyond the arch, forming vague, shifting figures that disappeared when Elira blinked. She tightened her grip on Kale's hand. This place is alive, but wounded. The fractures we saw in the dream tree's light, they're echoes of a deeper corruption, one that's rooted in the very heart of the forest. Kale's voice dropped to a grim whisper. If we don't stop it here, the shadows will spread beyond the whispering forest itself. They'll consume everything. Elira nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. We have to go inside. There might be a way to heal the fractures, or at least to understand what we're dealing with. Together, they stepped beneath the archway. Instantly, the world shifted. The mist thickened into a dense, swirling fog that wrapped around their bodies like cold silk. The air grew heavier, pressing against their lungs. The trees surrounding the glade vanished, replaced by an endless expanse of tangled roots and writhing shadows stretching out in every direction. Elira felt a deep vibration underfoot, a pulse like a heartbeat, slow and uneven. This is the heart of the grove, she said, voice barely audible. The roots beneath them writhed, some glowing faintly with silvery light, others blackened and cracked like dying veins. From the depths of the shadows, a voice resonated, low and mournful, a sound that wasn't spoken but felt within the bones. I am the root unspoken, the silence unbroken. You named me Nerith, but I am more. I am the beginning and the end, the seed and the decay. Elira's eyes widened. It's communicating, not with words, but with feeling. This isn't just corruption. It's a consciousness. Something ancient and vast. Kale stepped closer, drawing his dreamwood blade, its edge glowing soft green. We need to be careful. If this is the true root of the shadow, attacking it blindly could destroy the entire forest. Elira's mind raced. She recalled the lessons from the first dream tree, the sacrifices she made, the fragment of herself buried deep in Nerith's silence. We can't fight it with force, she said. We have to listen, understand. The voice pulsed again, sorrow mixing with a strange hope. You carry my name, dreamer, but you carry more, the fracture within your soul. To heal me, you must heal yourself. Only then can the forest dream anew. A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath their feet, and the shadows coalesced into a towering figure made of roots and mist, neither friend nor foe, but something in between. Elira swallowed her fear and stepped forward. I am ready, she whispered. And with that, the forest began to tell its story, a tale of creation and loss, of light shattered by shadow, and of a dreamer whose heart must mend the root of all things. The towering figure made of roots and mist stood motionless before Elira and Kale. Its form shimmered and shifted, neither fully solid nor entirely ethereal. It was as if the forest itself had taken shape, breathing in the silence and the fractures alike. Elira stepped closer, her heart pounding in rhythm with the faint pulse that seemed to emanate from the creature's core. "I am Elira," she said, voice steady though her hands trembled slightly. "You called me Nerith once, the name you gave the silence. But I am also the dreamer, the voice that named you, and the soul that seeks to heal what has been broken." The figure's tendrils of mist curled around her like gentle fingers. A wave of memories surged through her mind, ancient scenes flickering like ghosts in the mist. She saw the birth of the whispering forest, a vast expanse of life sprouting from the void, roots entwining, stars blossoming in the canopy. Then she saw the fracture, a crack splitting the forest's heart, spreading darkness like a slow poison. And finally she saw herself, younger, innocent, standing before the dream tree, naming the silence, unknowingly binding part of her soul to the root of the forest. The voice returned, softer this time, almost sorrowful. "The fracture is not only in the forest, but in you. You carry the wound and the cure intertwined. To heal me, you must accept all parts of yourself, the light and the shadow, the dream and the silence." Elira swallowed the surge of emotions. She understood now. Her journey wasn't just about saving the forest. It was about embracing every fragment of her own being. Kale watched silently, his blade lowered. "You're stronger than I ever knew," he said quietly. She nodded, feeling a new resolve rise within her. "Show me what I need to do," she said to the figure. Slowly, the root being extended a hand made of intertwined vines, glowing faintly with silvery light. A small seed, no larger than a palm, appeared nestled within its grasp. "This seed is the heart of Nerith," the voice explained. "Plant it within yourself. Let it grow in the soil of your soul. Only then can the fractures heal." Elira reached out and took the seed. It was warm and pulsing with life, as if breathing alongside her. The moment her fingers closed around it, a surge of light burst from within her. Memories, feelings, and powers long buried ignited and intertwined. She felt pain, hope, loss, and strength all at once. Kale stepped closer, supporting her as the forest seemed to hum with approval. "We're not just fighting for the forest anymore," Elira whispered. "We're fighting for the whole world, and for the parts of ourselves we've hidden away." The seed pulsed brighter, and the shadowed roots began to glow with renewed energy. Above, the mist started to lift, revealing stars blinking back into the night sky. The whispering forest was waking again. Elira stood silently in the center of the lost grove, clutching the glowing seed close to her chest. The weight of its warmth spread through her, threading light into every corner of her soul. Around them, the once thick mist had thinned, and the dark tendrils that had strangled the dream tree's roots retreated like a fading nightmare. Kale kept watch, his eyes sharp for any sign of renewed shadow, but the forest's heartbeat now felt steady, stronger than it had in centuries. "The seed," Elira murmured. "It's more than just a symbol. It's a living shard of Nerith, part of the silence, part of the dream." Her fingers trembled slightly as she pressed the seed against her heart, feeling the pulse synchronize with her own. Suddenly, the archway behind them shimmered, the glyphs glowing with a renewed light. A soft hum rose in the air, harmonizing with the pulse inside her. The forest is responding, Kale said, voice awed. Your bond with Nerith, it's healing the fractures. Elira closed her eyes, and visions washed over her, fleeting images of ancient trees bursting into bloom, rivers of light flowing beneath the earth, and the vast roots weaving through the soil like threads of starlight. But deeper still, she sensed something else, a shadow lurking at the edge of the light. A whisper, faint but insistent. Not all fractures mend with light. Her eyes snapped open. Kale, there's more we don't understand yet. Neritha's silence isn't just absence, it's balance. If we try to fill every shadow with light, we might lose what keeps the forest alive. Kale nodded slowly. Then we need to find that balance. To accept the darkness as part of the whole. Together they stepped forward, the seed's glow casting long shadows that danced alongside them. The lost grove seemed to breathe, its ancient magic weaving around them, pulling them deeper into the forest's heart. Elira whispered to the seed, "Grow with me. Help me mend what's broken, not by forcing the silence away, but by letting it be part of the song." As they ventured deeper, the fractured light and the lingering shadow intertwined, weaving a new melody, the next chapter of the whispering forest's endless dream. The deeper Elira and Kale ventured into the lost grove, the more the forest seemed alive in ways beyond the physical. The roots hummed beneath their feet, ancient magic pulsing like veins of light and darkness intertwined. The glow from the seed in Elira's hand was steady now, a heartbeat she could feel in sync with her own. But the air grew colder, and shadows lengthened, twisting into shapes that whispered forgotten names and half-remembered dreams. Elira's breath caught as a figure emerged from the gloom, slender and tall, woven from shadow and leaves, with eyes like molten gold. "Who are you?" Kale asked, stepping protectively in front of Elira. The figure bowed slightly, voice soft but resonant. "I am Silas, keeper of the balance, guardian of the spaces where light and shadow meet." Elira studied Silas closely. Though his form was shadowed, the seed's light reflected in his eyes, casting warmth over the darkness. "The fractures in the forest," Elira said, "they threaten to tear everything apart. I hold the seed, a shard of Neritha's silence. But how do we heal without destroying the balance?" Silas smiled faintly. "Balance is not absence of conflict, but harmony within it. You carry both the light of the dream and the silence of Nerith. To mend the forest, you must weave them together, not one over the other." He gestured toward a clearing ahead where the trees grew tall and straight, their branches entwined in a delicate dance of shadow and light. "This is the Heartwood," Silas explained, "the place where all fractures converge. If you plant the seed here, the forest may heal, but only if you are ready to embrace all that you are, including the darkness within." Elira nodded, feeling the weight of the journey settling on her shoulders. Kale stepped forward. "We face this together, whatever comes next." With the keeper leading the way, they moved into the Heartwood, a place where shadows whispered secrets, and light sang of ancient hopes. Elira clutched the seed tightly. The future of the whispering forest, and her own soul, awaited. The heartwood spread before them like a cathedral of ancient trees, their trunks glowing faintly with veins of silver light. Leaves shimmered like shards of crystal, casting fractured rainbows over the soft earth beneath their feet. Yet shadows curled between the roots, cool and whispering, as if the forest itself breathed in quiet anticipation. Elira stepped forward, the seed glowing warmly in her palm. The weight of all she had learned, the fractured light, Neretha's silence, her own divided soul, pressed gently but firmly on her heart. Silas, the keeper of the balance, moved beside her, his shadowed form a living reminder that light and darkness must coexist. "This is the moment," Silas intoned. "To plant the seed is to open yourself fully to the forest's truth. It will take root in your spirit, binding the fracture, but also demanding that you accept the darkness you have long feared." Elira closed her eyes and knelt, fingers brushing the soft earth at the heartwood's center. She felt the pulse of the forest beneath her, slow and steady like a giant heartbeat. She pressed the seed gently into the soil. A tremor rippled outward as roots beneath the ground responded. The silver veins in the trees brightened, and light and shadow began to weave together in a luminous dance. Inside her, the seed's warmth spread, weaving threads of healing through the fractured parts of her soul. Memories long buried surfaced, pain, loss, fear, but also strength, hope, and love. The forest sighed, a sound like wind through leaves, soft and deep. Then a sudden, sharp crack echoed through the clearing. A shadow broke free from the darkness between the trees, writhing and snarling, its form jagged and desperate. "It is the fracture itself," Silas warned. "Not all parts of the silence wish to heal." Kale raised his dreamwood blade, its green glow steady and sure. "Then we fight to protect the dream and the balance," he declared. Elira stood, feeling the seed's light steady within her as she faced the shadow. "We will heal this," she said. "Together." As the shadow lunged, the forest around them exploded into light and darkness intertwined, a battle not only for survival but for the soul of the whispering forest itself. The shadow surged forward like a living nightmare, twisting and writhing with desperate fury. Its form was jagged, shifting, part smoke, part thorn vine, eyes blazing with an ancient rage born from the deepest fractures of the forest's soul. Kale met its charge with his greenwood blade, the green light from the weapon flaring bright enough to cut through the darkest tendrils. Each strike sent ripples of shimmering energy through the air, fragments of light battling the encroaching shadow. Elira stood firm beside him, the warmth of the seed pulsing strong within her chest. She closed her eyes briefly, reaching inward, weaving strands of dream and silence into a protective shield that shimmered like a veil of moonlight. The shadow hissed and recoiled, but it was relentless, driven by the fractured darkness that had festered for centuries beneath the forest floor. Silas moved with quiet grace, his shadow form twisting to block tendrils aimed at Elira and Kale. With a voice calm yet commanding, he intoned words in the ancient root language, calling upon the forest itself to rise in their defense. From the earth, roots burst forth, glowing with silver light and curling around the shadow like chains of living energy. The ground trembled as the forest's ancient magic awakened, lending strength to the dreamer, the guardian, and the keeper. Elira felt the seed within her blaze brighter, a beacon of healing and hope. Gathering her courage, she stepped forward and extended her hand toward the shadow. "I am not your enemy," she said, voice steady but gentle. "You are part of this forest, as broken as I am. Let us heal the fracture together." For a moment, the shadow hesitated, tendrils flickering uncertainly. Then, slowly, the jagged edges softened. The smoke and thorns unraveled, and the creature's form shimmered, becoming less fearsome and more a part of the swirling dance of light and shadow that defined the whispering forest. The tension eased, replaced by a fragile calm. Silas nodded solemnly. "The balance is fragile, but it holds for now." Kale sheathed his blade and looked at Elira with quiet admiration. "You did it," he said simply. "You brought the forest back from the brink." Elira smiled softly, feeling the seed's light settle like a gentle heartbeat. "This is just the beginning," she said. "The whispering forest will always dream, and so will I." The dawn light filtered softly through the ancient branches of the hardwood, casting a golden glow that touched every leaf and root. The forest, once fractured and trembling, now hummed with renewed life, a gentle, persistent melody that spoke of healing and hope. Elira stood at the center of the clearing, the seed she had planted fully integrated within her spirit, its light now a quiet pulse that echoed with the rhythm of the forest itself. Around her, the heartwood shimmered in harmonious balance, where shadow and light no longer clashed but danced as one. Kale rested his hand lightly on her shoulder, his eyes bright with renewed faith. "The forest is healing because you dared to face both its darkness and its light." Elira smiled, a sense of peace washing over her. "It's not just the forest. I feel it in myself, too. The fractures that once divided me have mended. Neritha's silence is no longer empty, it sings." Silas, the keeper of the balance, stepped forward, his form less shadow and more light than before. "This harmony will not be the end, but a new beginning. The forest will continue to whisper, dream, and grow, because you have embraced its truth." As the three stood in the heartwood, the forest's ancient magic wove a tapestry of renewal. The trees glowed softly, roots hummed with energy, and the mist lifted to reveal stars blinking alive in the early morning sky. Elira breathed deeply, feeling the promise of endless dreams stretching before her. Together, they turned toward the path home, knowing the whispering forest story was far from over, but ready to face whatever dreams or shadows the future might bring. The forest whispered on, and so did they. Seasons turned like pages in an ancient book. The whispering forest flourished beneath the gentle watch of Elira, Kale, and Silas, its balance a living testament to the strength found in embracing both light and shadow. Villagers from nearby hamlets spoke of the forest's renewed magic, the way the air seemed sweeter, the waters clearer, and the night filled with stars that whispered secrets to those who dared listen. Elira often wandered the heartwood alone, feeling the seed's light pulse quietly in her chest, a constant reminder that she was forever bound to the forest's soul. One evening, beneath a canopy of shimmering leaves, she paused before the ancient stone archway, now fully restored and glowing with soft silver runes. Her fingers traced the symbols, and a gentle voice echoed inside her mind, the voice of Nerith, the silence, the root. Dreamer, you have sown the seed of healing. But remember, the forest dream is eternal, and so is its shadow. Walk with both, and you will never lose your way. Elira smiled, her heart steady. The Whispering Forest was more than a place. It was a living story, unfolding with every breath, every dream, every whispered secret beneath the stars. And as long as she dreamed, the forest would never be silent again. Years had passed since the seed was planted in the heartwood, and the Whispering Forest thrived in harmonious balance. Elira had become the forest's guardian, a beacon of light and shadow intertwined. Yet beneath the peaceful canopy, new stirrings began to pulse, a faint echo of something long forgotten. One evening, as twilight bled into night, a ripple of dark energy raced through the roots beneath the forest floor. Elira felt it immediately, a cold prickle crawling along her skin, a shadow rekindled. She summoned Kale and Silas, their eyes reflecting the flickering torchlight in the clearing. The balance is shifting, Elira said gravely. Something stirs beneath the roots, a fracture reopening, but different this time. More ancient, more restless. Silas's shadowy form flickered. The silence of Nerith has deeper layers, hidden truths we have yet to uncover. Kale tightened his grip on his blade. We thought the forest's darkness was tamed, but it seems the past is not done with us yet. Together they set forth toward the lost grove, where shadows danced with light, and the forest held its breath once more. The Whispering Forest was dreaming again. The lost grove welcomed them with a silence that felt thicker than before, as if the very air was holding its breath in anticipation. The trees stood taller, their branches weaving intricate patterns overhead, blotting out the stars. Elira's footsteps were light but purposeful as she led the way deeper into the heart of the forest. The seed's light, once a steady glow within her, now pulsed with uneven beats, an anxious rhythm that mirrored the unease growing in her chest. Kale followed closely, his dreamwood blade drawn and ready. Silas's shadowed form flickered with quiet energy, his eyes scanning the darkness. Suddenly, the earth beneath them trembled, a low rumble that shook the leaves from the trees and stirred the mist at their feet. Elira, Silas warned, the fracture is awakening. Without warning, the ground before them cracked open, revealing a yawning fissure glowing with eerie blue light. From its depths, tendrils of shadow and root writhed, reaching upward like desperate hands. Elira stepped forward, raising her hands as the light from the seed flared brightly. Show yourself, she commanded. We come as friends. From the fissure emerged a figure cloaked in twisting roots and shadow, eyes gleaming with an ancient sorrow. I am Thaler, it whispered, voice like the rustling of dead leaves. Guardian of the forgotten depths, keeper of the forest's hidden wounds. Elira's heart tightened. Why have you awakened? What threatens the balance now? Thaler's eyes shimmered with pain. The fracture below is deeper than you know. The silence you mended is but the surface. Darker roots spread beneath, fed by old wounds and forgotten fears. If left unchecked, they will consume all. Kale tightened his grip on his blade. Then we must descend. Find the source and heal it before it's too late. Elira nodded, feeling the weight of their task settle upon her. The journey beneath the roots had begun. The fissure's glow cast eerie shadows on the ancient trees as Elira, Kale, and Silas prepared to descend into the forest's hidden depths. The air was thick with damp earth and the scent of forgotten memories, as if the very ground held stories long buried beneath layers of root and soil. Thaler, the guardian of the forgotten depths, led the way, his twisted form shifting between solid root and shadow, illuminating their path with a faint, pulsing light. The deeper they went, the more the forest seemed to close in around them. Walls of gnarled roots wound tightly, pulsing with dark energy that whispered of pain and regret. The dreamwood blade in Kale's hand glowed brighter with each step, a beacon against the encroaching gloom. "Elira," Silas murmured, voice low. "The balance here is fragile. The darkness is ancient, but so is the hope buried beneath it." Suddenly, the path opened into a vast cavern beneath the forest. Stalactites dripped glowing sap, and the walls shimmered with runes older than time itself, runes that pulsed faintly with the light of the seed. In the center of the cavern lay a massive root, fractured and bleeding shadows like ink spilling into clear water. "Elira, this is the heart of the fracture," Thaler said solemnly. "It feeds the darkness above." Elira stepped forward, feeling the seed's light flare in response. She placed her hand on the root's surface, and a wave of memories flooded her mind, ancient battles, lost hopes, and the sorrow of a forest torn between light and shadow. "We must heal this," she whispered. "Not with force, but with understanding." Kale nodded. "Then we stand with you." Silas began chanting softly, weaving shadows and light into a protective circle around them. Elira closed her eyes, letting the seed's warmth flow through her, reaching into the fractured root, offering peace where there had been only pain. The cavern filled with a radiant glow as the root began to mend, threads of light weaving into the dark cracks. But just as hope blossomed, a sudden chill swept through the cavern, a whisper, cold and sharp. "Not all wounds wish to heal." The chilling whisper echoed through the cavern, wrapping around Elira like a cold wind from the depths of the forgotten earth. The glowing light from the seed faltered for a moment, as if startled by the unseen presence. Elira's eyes snapped open, and she stepped back from the root, her heart pounding with sudden dread. The gentle glow that had begun to mend the fracture flickered unevenly, shadows creeping along the edges of the light. Thaler's form stiffened. "There is something deeper, something older, resisting the healing. The forest's wounds are layered like rings in a tree. Some scars run far beneath what we can see." Kale tightened his grip on the dreamwood blade, stepping closer to Elira. "What do we do? We can't let this darkness spread." Silas's voice was steady but grave. "We cannot fight this with force alone. We must face what lies beneath the wound, the root of the shadow itself." Suddenly, the cavern shook violently. From the fractured root, a tendril of pure blackness lashed out, striking the circle of light Silas had woven. The protective barrier flickered but held. Elira raised her hands, summoning the seed's light once more. "I will go deeper," she said. into the silence itself. Thala nodded solemnly. I will guide you. With the dreamwood blade at his side and Silas's shadowy form encircling them, they followed the twisted root as it spiraled downward into the abyss. The light grew faint, and the air grew heavy with ancient sorrow. Elira's heartbeat matched the slow, steady pulse of the seed in her chest, a fragile beacon in the consuming darkness. As they descended, strange visions flickered at the edges of her mind, memories not her own, a forest in flames, whispers of betrayal, and a voice that promised power in exchange for silence. The root of the shadow waited, and Elira knew the true test of her strength, and her heart was yet to come. The air grew colder, heavier, as Elira, Kale, Silas, and Thala descended deeper into the abyss beneath the forest. The faint glow from the seed in Elira's chest was their only beacon, pulsing steadily against the suffocating darkness. Ahead, the twisted root wound down into a cavern so vast it seemed to swallow sound itself. Here, the silence was thick, an oppressive, almost living presence that pressed against Elira's mind. She could feel it, a vast void within the root, a wound that pulsed with raw pain and ancient grief. This was the heart of the fracture, the source of the shadow that threatened to consume the whispering forest. Steeling herself, Elira stepped forward and extended her hands, letting the seed's warmth flow outward like liquid light. The darkness writhed, twisting and coiling like a living thing. A voice echoed in her mind, cold, distant, yet filled with sorrow. Why do you disturb me, dreamer? I am the silence you fear, the wound you cannot heal. Elira's voice was steady, though her heart trembled. You are part of the forest too. I do not seek to destroy you, but to understand and heal. The shadow hesitated, then slowly began to take form, a figure shrouded in darkness, yet with eyes that glowed faintly with hope. I am Neritha's silence, the figure whispered. Not empty, but waiting. Waiting for the forest and its dreamer to listen. Elira stepped closer. I am here. I hear you. Together we can mend the fracture, if you will let me. For a long moment, the silence held its breath, then slowly, tendrils of shadow softened, intertwining with Elira's light. The cavern filled with a gentle glow, a promise that even the deepest wounds could find peace. Kale and Silas stood silently, watching as the heart of the fracture began to heal. Elira felt the seed's light grow stronger, a steady pulse that echoed through her very soul. The whispering forest's dream was alive once more. As the soft glow of the healing light spread through the cavern, the oppressive silence that had weighed so heavily on Elira's chest began to lift. The ancient wound, once a jagged scar in the forest's soul, was knitting itself together, thread by thread, shadow by light. Elira lowered her hand slowly, feeling the warmth of the seed steady in her palm. Neritha's silence, no longer a void but a living presence, hovered gently beside her, a quiet guardian of balance. Thala's form brightened, the shadows around him retreating to reveal the intricate patterns of bark and leaf beneath. The root has mended, he said softly, but this healing is fragile. The forest will need your care and your courage in the days to come. Kale sheathed his dreamwood blade, a relieved smile crossing his face. We've faced darkness before. Together, we can keep the balance. Silas stepped forward, shadows folding around him like a cloak. The forest dream is eternal, but it depends on those who listen and those who dare to dream beyond the silence. Elira glanced upward toward the faint glimmer of light filtering down through the roots above. The path back to the surface, back to the whispering forest, and its endless dance of shadow and light. This is a new dawn, she said, voice steady with hope. For the forest. For all of us. As they ascended, the roots around them shimmered with renewed life, and the forest above welcomed them home, alive, whispering, and dreaming once more. Back above the forest floor, the air was crisp and filled with the scent of moss and blooming night flowers. The whispering forest seemed to breathe anew, its ancient magic rippling through every leaf and branch. Elira felt the pulse of the seed within her chest harmonizing with the forest's heartbeat, a steady rhythm that promised hope and renewal. Yet, as they emerged from the depths, a faint murmur lingered at the edge of her hearing, whispers carried on the wind, elusive and haunting. Silas's shadow flickered uneasily. The forest dreams deeper than we know. Though the fracture is mended, echoes of old shadows remain. We must stay vigilant. Kale scanned the trees, ever watchful. The darkness has learned. It may seek new ways to return. Elira nodded thoughtfully. The dream is never complete. It is a living story, ever-changing, shaped by our courage and our choices. That night, beneath a sky alight with countless stars, the three guardians gathered at the heartwood. Elira placed her hand upon the ancient tree, feeling the warmth radiate through her veins. The whispering forest is a place of endless beginnings, she said softly. And as long as we listen, as long as we dream, its magic will never fade. The wind stirred the leaves, carrying their whispers like a lullaby, a song of hope, shadow, and the promise of tomorrow. And in the quiet, Elira understood. The forest's dream was not hers alone to carry. It belonged to all who dared to listen and believe. Days slipped into weeks, and the forest thrummed with renewed life, yet beneath its vibrant surface, a subtle tension lingered, an unspoken awareness that something watched from the shadows. Elira, Kale, and Silas had grown into their roles as guardians, their bond deepened by trials and triumphs. But one evening, as twilight draped the forest in hues of violet and gold, a figure emerged silently from the trees, a presence both familiar and unknown. Clad in a cloak woven from the midnight sky, the silent watcher stepped into the clearing, eyes gleaming with ancient knowledge. "I have come," the stranger said softly, voice like the rustle of dry leaves, "to warn you that the balance we fought to restore is fragile beyond measure." Elira's gaze sharpened. "Who are you? What threatens the whispering forest now?" The watcher's eyes flickered with shadow and light. "I am the last of the dream weavers, keepers of the forest's deepest dreams and darkest fears. A new darkness stirs beyond the edges of this world, one that feeds not on shadow, but on forgotten dreams." Kale's grip tightened on his blade. "Then we must prepare. Whatever comes, the forest will stand." Silas stepped forward, shadows gathering like a storm. "The dream is vast, and its echoes endless. We must be ready to face what lies beyond the whisper. Elira nodded, determination blazing in her eyes. The whispering forest has survived for centuries because its guardians listened to every voice, seen and unseen. We will face this new darkness together. The silent watcher nodded, a faint smile touching their lips. Then your journey is just beginning. The arrival of the silent watcher stirred a new urgency within the guardians. Elira, Kale, and Silas gathered beneath the towering heartwood tree, its vast branches sheltering them like the arms of an ancient protector. The new darkness the watcher spoke of, Elira mused, tracing the worn bark with her fingertips. Feeds on forgotten dreams. But what does that mean? How can dreams be forgotten? The silent watcher's eyes glimmered, reflecting the flickering firelight. Dreams are the forest's lifeblood. When they are lost or ignored, they weaken the balance. This darkness grows in the spaces where hope and memory fade. Kale leaned forward. Is there a way to stop it? To protect the dreams that keep the forest alive? There is, the watcher replied, but it will require a journey beyond the forest's edges, into the realm of waking and sleeping, where dreams and reality blur. Silas's shadow form rippled with anticipation. A perilous path, but one we must take if the whispering forest is to endure. Elira nodded, resolve hardening within her. Then we begin at dawn. We will venture beyond the whisper, and face whatever waits in the twilight between worlds. As the fire crackled and the night deepened, the guardians prepared for the journey ahead, knowing that the fate of the whispering forest, and perhaps the world of dreams itself, rested in their hands. As the first light of dawn kissed the treetops, Elira, Kale, Silas, and the silent watcher stood at the edge of the whispering forest, where the thick canopy gave way to a shimmering veil of mist, the boundary between the waking world and the realm of dreams. The air was cool and charged with a strange energy, as if the forest itself held its breath in anticipation. Elira stepped forward, her heart steady despite the unknown path before them. The veil is thin here, she said, voice barely above a whisper. This is where dreams spill into reality, and where reality bleeds into dreams. The silent watcher nodded. Beyond this veil lies the dreamscape, a place of endless possibility and peril. It is the source of the forest's dreams, but also the birthplace of its darkest fears. Kale tightened his grip on the dreamwood blade. We must be careful. One wrong step could trap us forever in the dreamscape, or unleash nightmares upon our world. Silas's shadowy form shifted, blending with the early morning mist. But if we can navigate this realm, we may find the key to restoring the forgotten dreams and banishing the darkness once and for all. Together, they crossed the shimmering veil, the world around them dissolving into a kaleidoscope of shifting colors and shapes. The whispering forest faded behind them, replaced by a landscape that was both familiar and strange, a realm where dreams wove themselves into reality, and reality melted into dreams. Elira's breath caught as they stepped deeper into the dreamscape, knowing that their greatest challenge was only just beginning. The dreamscape unfolded before them like a living painting, colors swirling in impossible patterns, trees that shifted shape and shimmered with iridescent light, and paths that twisted and branched in ways that defied logic. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and distant storms, and the sound of whispered voices echoed faintly, dreams half remembered, lost hopes, and secrets yet to be told. Elira tightened her grip on the seed's light, which pulsed warmly in her palm, a tether to the real world and the forest she loved. "We must stay focused," she said, eyes scanning the shifting landscape. "The dreamscape is beautiful, but it is also dangerous. It preys on fear and doubt." The silent watcher nodded. "This place tests the heart and mind. It reveals what you most desire and what you most fear." Kale stepped cautiously along a path that seemed to ripple beneath their feet. "If we lose our way here, we could be trapped, or worse, lose ourselves entirely." Silas's shadow form flickered, stretching and contracting as if responding to unseen currents. "The darkness we seek feeds on lost dreams. We must find the wellspring, the source of forgotten hope." Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a swirl of shadow erupted from the mist, a figure shaped from nightmare and sorrow, its eyes glowing with cold fire. "Elira," the creature hissed, voice like cracking ice. "You cannot heal what has been forsaken." Elira stepped forward, the seed's light blazing in response. "I will not let fear silence the forest's dreams." The battle for the heart of the dreamscape had begun. The shadow creature lunged, its form shifting like smoke and jagged glass, claws slicing through the shimmering air. Elira met its attack head-on, the seed's light exploding into a radiant shield that pushed the darkness back. Kale swung his dreamwood blade, its edges humming with ancient magic. Each strike sent sparks of light weaving through the shadowy form, fracturing its shape but never fully dispelling it. Silas wove through the shadows, bending them with his own power, creating barriers that slowed the creature's advance. "It feeds on forgotten hopes," he called to Elira. "We must remind it of the light it once knew." Elira closed her eyes, drawing on the warmth of the seed and memories of the forest, the laughter of children beneath the canopy, the song of birds at dawn, the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. She whispered to the creature, "You are part of the forest, too. Remember the dreams you held once." For a moment, the creature faltered, its fiery eyes flickering with confusion and pain. The silent watcher stepped forward, chanting words older than the forest itself, weaving a tapestry of light and shadow that wrapped around the creature like a cocoon. With a final burst of radiant energy, the shadow was drawn into the light, dissolving into countless shimmering fragments that drifted like fireflies. The dreamscape's colors settled into a calm, radiant glow. The path before them cleared, leading deeper into the heart of forgotten dreams. Elira opened her eyes, breath steady. This is only the beginning. The darkness may retreat, but it will never truly vanish as long as dreams are forgotten. Kale nodded. Then we must keep the light alive, within ourselves and within the forest. Silas's shadow flickered with a newfound strength. The dreamscape's heart awaits. Let us find the wellspring. Together they stepped forward, deeper into the dreamscape's mysteries, ready to face whatever awaited in the realm where dreams and reality entwined. Beyond the fading remnants of the shadow's defeat. The dreamscape transformed into a realm of radiant light and flowing colors, as if the very essence of hope and memory had been restored in their wake. The air shimmered with gentle luminescence, and the whispering voices of forgotten dreams grew clearer, soft echoes of laughter, song, and promise. Elira led the group forward, the seed's light now a steady beacon, guiding them toward the heart of this realm. The wellspring, the silent watcher whispered, eyes shining with reverence. The source of the forest's dreams. Here, hope is born anew, and forgotten dreams are rekindled. They arrived at a vast crystalline lake, its surface smooth as glass and glowing with an inner light that shifted through every hue of the spectrum. From the center of the lake rose a magnificent tree, its branches weaving skyward in an eternal dance of light and shadow. "This is the dream tree," Dallas said quietly, his voice filled with awe. "Its roots reach into the deepest places of the forest's soul, drawing strength from every dream it holds." Elira stepped closer, feeling the hum of ancient magic beneath her feet. She placed her hand on the shimmering bark, and a flood of visions washed over her, moments of joy and sorrow, hope and fear, all intertwined like the threads of a vast tapestry. "We must protect this place," Elira said softly. "For as long as the dream tree stands, the whispering forest will endure." Kale unsheathed his blade, its light reflecting in the crystal-clear water. "Then we stand as its guardians, bound to the dreams that keep this world alive." Silas nodded, shadows folding into the light around them. "The balance is fragile, but together we will guard it." The seed's glow pulsed in harmony with the dream tree, a living connection between Elira and the heart of the forest's magic. As the sun rose beyond the veil of the dreamscape, the guardians knew their journey was far from over. But here, at the wellspring of dreams, they found strength and hope to face whatever darkness might come next. The first light of dawn filtered gently through the dreamscape, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the shimmering ground. Though the storm of shadows had passed, a heavy silence settled among the guardians, a quiet that spoke of battles fought and sacrifices yet to come. Elira stood by the dream tree, its radiant branches swaying softly as if breathing with the pulse of the forest's dreams. The seed in her palm felt warm, alive with possibility, yet weighed by the burden it carried. The silent watcher approached, their eyes filled with ancient wisdom and sorrow. "The darkness you fought was only a fragment of what lies beyond. There is a choice to be made, Elira. The forest's future depends on it." Elira met their gaze, heart steady despite the storm raging within. "What choice? The seed you carry is not just a symbol of hope," the watcher explained. "It is a vessel of great power. You may use it to bind the darkness forever, but at a cost. It will demand a sacrifice, one that may change you forever." Kale's voice was firm yet gentle. "Whatever the choice, you will not face it alone." Silas's shadow flickered near, a silent promise of loyalty. Elira looked toward the horizon, where the dreamscape's shifting colors promised both danger and renewal. "If sacrifice is what it takes to protect the dreams of the forest, then I am ready." The watcher nodded solemnly. "Then prepare yourself. The true battle begins now." As the light of the dream tree enveloped them, Elira closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the forest's ancient magic flowing into her, a power both beautiful and terrifying. In that moment, she understood. To guard the whispering forest was to embrace not just hope, but the enduring strength to face the unknown, whatever the cost. The dream tree's radiant light wrapped around Elira like a living cloak, filling her with warmth and power unlike anything she had known. The seed pulsed in her palm, a heartbeat intertwined with the forest's ancient soul. "I am ready," Elira whispered, stepping forward into the center of the glowing circle beneath the dream tree. The silent watcher began to chant, their voice weaving a spell of binding and protection. Light and shadow intertwined, creating a tapestry of magic that shimmered like the dawn. Elira raised the seed high, feeling its energy surge through her veins, reaching deep into the heart of the dreamscape. The darkness that lingered beyond the veil shuddered, sensing the coming bond that would seal its fate. With a final, resolute breath, Elira released the seed's power, sending a cascade of brilliant light flooding outward, washing over the dreamscape, healing the fractures of forgotten dreams and sealing the cracks through which shadow had slipped. Pain blossomed within her, a searing fire that burned away fear and doubt, transforming her from within. She was no longer just a guardian. She had become the living embodiment of the forest's hope and light. The shadows howled, retreating beyond the reach of the binding magic, their power sealed away by Elira's sacrifice. When the light faded, Elira stood tall, her eyes shining with a new, radiant clarity. The forest's dreams were safe, for now. Kale stepped forward, awe and respect in his gaze. "You've given everything." Silas bowed his shadowed head. "You are the light that will guide the whispering forest through the darkest nights." The silent watcher smiled softly. "The bond is eternal. As long as you stand, so will the forest's dreams." Elira looked to the horizon, where the dreamscape shimmered with renewed life and promise. "For the whispering forest," she said, voice steady and full of hope. "For the dreams that will never fade." With the binding light settled deep within her soul, Elira felt a profound connection not only to the whispering forest but to the countless dreams it sheltered. Yet the victory carried a solemn weight. She sensed the forest's story was far from over. The silent watcher approached once more, their eyes reflecting the shimmering light of the dreamscape. "The bond you forged will protect the forest, but it also opens a path, a vision of what may come." Elira inhaled sharply as a vision unfolded before her, vivid images swirling like leaves caught in a breeze. She saw distant lands, new faces, and echoes of a future where the forest's dreams intertwined with the waking world in ways she had never imagined. Kale, standing beside her, watched intently. "What do you see?" "A journey beyond these woods," Elira replied, voice soft yet resolute. "New allies, new threats, and the chance to weave our story into a greater tapestry." Silas's shadow flickered with curiosity. "The whispering forest is part of something larger then?" "Yes," Elira said. "Our fight for dreams is not isolated. It ripples outward, touching lives beyond these trees. We must be ready, not just as guardians, but as messengers." The silent watcher nodded. "The future is a river with many currents. You have given the forest hope, but your path will lead beyond its borders. Elira's gaze lifted to the horizon, where the dreamscape's light met the morning sky. Then we will follow that path. Together. The whispering forest hummed with quiet strength, a living promise that its dreams would endure, carried forward by those who dared to dream still. The morning light painted the dreamscape in soft golds and gentle blues, a stark contrast to the shadows they had battled and the sacrifices made. Elira stood at the edge of the shimmering veil, the boundary between the whispering forest and the unknown world beyond. Behind her, the dream tree's radiant glow pulsed softly, a steady heartbeat of life and hope. Ahead, the horizon stretched wide and inviting, mysterious and full of promise. Kale adjusted the strap of his pack, his eyes bright with anticipation. So this is where our journey truly begins. Silas materialized beside them, his shadowed form now more solid, almost tangible in the waking light. The forest's protection will travel with us, but the challenges beyond are new. We must be vigilant. The silent watcher nodded solemnly. The realm beyond holds many secrets, some beautiful, others dangerous. But your bond will be your guide. Elira took a deep breath, feeling the power of the seed still alive within her, the strength of the forest in her veins. We go forward not just to protect the whispering forest, but to carry its dreams into the wider world. With one last look back at the glowing heart of the dreamscape, they stepped through the veil, leaving behind the familiar whispers and entering a world both unknown and full of possibility. The whispering forest story was no longer confined to its trees and shadows. It was a story of courage, hope, and dreams, a story that had only just begun. The world beyond the veil stretched vast and uncharted, bathed in the soft light of dawn. Rolling hills gave way to sprawling meadows dotted with wildflowers, and distant mountains pierced the horizon like ancient sentinels. The air carried a faint fragrance of pine and earth, mingling with the lingering magic of the dreamscape. Elira, Kale, Silas, and the silent watcher moved forward cautiously, their senses alert to the unfamiliar sights and sounds. Though the forest's protection hummed within Elira, the world beyond was unpredictable, full of both beauty and hidden dangers. "We're not alone here," Silas murmured, his shadow shifting as he surveyed the land. "Other forces are stirring, creatures and spirits bound to this realm's ancient rhythms." Kale nodded, gripping his blade. "We must learn their ways, their strengths and fears. Only then can we protect the dreams that extend beyond the forest." Elira's gaze was steady, her heart full of resolve. "Our journey continues, not just to guard what is, but to nurture what can be." As they ventured deeper into the new land, the sky above brightened, promising a dawn not only for the whispering forest, but for all the worlds where dreams might take root. The future was unwritten, but with courage and unity, they would face it together. Days passed as the Guardians journeyed across hills and through quiet valleys, following the pull of the seed's light within Elira. The world beyond the forest was stranger than any of them had expected. Beautiful, yes, but fractured. Places shimmered like memories barely held together, as though reality here was still dreaming itself into shape. Then one night, under a sky heavy with unfamiliar constellations, they found it. A vast city of crystal and ivy lay half buried in silence. Its towers leaning like tired dreamers, its spires tangled in flowering vines that glowed with a faint inner light. The city of forgotten stars. It's abandoned, Kale whispered, stepping through an archway carved with runes that pulsed softly at their presence. Not abandoned, corrected the silent watcher. Asleep. They wandered deeper into the city's heart, where time seemed to bend. Statues lined the walkways, not stone, but people, frozen in place, expressions serene. Some reached toward the sky. Others knelt beside fountains that still shimmered with dream light. These are dreamers, Elira said, awed. Held in some kind of stasis. But why? Silas knelt beside one of the statues, his fingers tracing the faint magic that shimmered around it. Something happened here, a powerful enchantment. Not malicious. Protective, maybe. But the source is unstable. At the center of the city stood a broken observatory, its great lens cracked and facing upward. Inside, beneath a canopy of stars both real and illusory, stood a dais, and upon it, a second seed. Unlike Elira's, this one flickered erratically, pulsing between light and shadow. It's a twin, the silent watcher murmured. The seed of forgotten dreams. The last time it awakened, this city fell asleep. Elira stepped forward, heart pounding. Then we must awaken it properly, and before the balance collapses again. And far above, one of the forgotten stars blinked awake.